A work of art doesn't exist outside the perception of the audience. And to cater to the whimsy of such an audience, we have with us today a guest who is a product designer turned visual development artist. He's a storyteller at heart and believes that the world can be a better place if we keep an open mind and be more empathetic and compassionate as a species. He has also recently worked on the sequel of Spider-Man Into the Multiverse with Sony Pictures Animation. And let us see if we can get a scoop on that. But mostly, I'm intrigued to know more about what he does. Without building the suspense anymore, let me welcome Jay Thakur. Hi, Jay. How are you?
Hello, Amrita.
I hope you're well.
Yes, I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good as well. I'm so interested in knowing what you do because I have been reading about visual development artists and trying to understand what you've been doing so far. Uh, but I guess there's so much literature out there that I guess I must have just touched the surface. So can you tell the listeners what is the role of a visual development artist and how did you get interested in this?
Yeah. So visual development basically is part of the pre-production part of any pipeline, and it in movies at least it is to develop the look of the picture and to help visualize the script and the director's vision. So once the idea is in place, we kind of design the characters, the environments, the props, the vehicles, the lighting, the color, all that stuff.
Okay, so it's basically like a set design, if I'm not wrong.
A set is one part of it.
One
So
part.
because like for an animation movie, everything has to be built from scratch, right?
Right.
Even the lighting setup, the color palette, every little pixel has to be designed. So all that has to be taken care of before
Yeah.
it can go to the animators and the modelers. So if, for example, if there's a scene that you see on the screen,
Mhm.
there'll be a set, and in that set there'll be the characters, there'll be the
Mhm.
props which the characters use, there'll be certain lighting which is supposed to evoke a certain emotion in the audience. So all that
Mhm.
has to be figured out, and that's what we do as
Okay.
visual development artists.
Right. So you basically come up with a storyboard, including all these details, and then there's somebody who works on the details of it.
We do the details of it. So there's story. Usually there's two departments that work
Right.
with the directors.
Right.
There'll be the story artists and
Mhm.
there'll be the visual development artists. So the
Okay.
story artists would, take care of the pacing, of the cuts, of the editing of the shots, and then we take care of how it's actually gonna visually look to the
Understood.
audience.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Quite interesting because I saw one of your stories, which was there on the internet. It's about the strength in our roots, and I went
Hmm.
detailing. I really absolutely loved, the color palettes that you've used, the change of seasons, and also the details that you've done underwater and overwater. How the how
Yeah.
that's. I mean, how do you come up with such concepts? Do you go outside, observe a lot, or it's just from a lot of reading?
Yeah, that's one very big part of it, observation and research.
Mhm.
Research is like we have to make sure we thoroughly figure out and understand what direction that we are trying to tackle. And it's also important to be efficient in the research, right? When to stop researching. Otherwise, you can get lost in the research itself. So once we have the research, it helps us to problem solve and also
Mhm.
acts as an inspiration for the designs. And the amazing part of a design process is it helps you get rid of biases by having an initial direction,
Mhm.
and then you ideate, right? You ideate on the ideas. The first ideation would be all your initial instincts and initial thought processes. Then the next round of ideations would be something outside what you're comfortable with, and then the next round of ideations would be something that you wouldn't have thought of initially, so that
Right.
you've kept your bias aside now, and now you've come up with a wholesome solution for what is needed for the brief.
Okay. Right. So you've created a structure for yourself so that you can come up with.
Yeah, that is, yeah, like the process is actually, it's the process that actually drew me to the design field. When I was studying product design, I fell in love with the process of how we do this market research, we interview our users, and finally how we come up with these products that are what the audience needs, and that is what I carried on to entertainment and visual development.
And I can see that. I mean, the kind of detailing that you've done seems like somebody, something that would do.
Yeah.
And then you've drawn parallels between product designing and designing for, an animation studio, which is visible.
Yeah, any like process is like an investigative process, right? It starts with a purposeless inquiry to see what's happening, and then slowly things fall into place, and then it becomes like a meaningful something that can be related to by the audience.
Right, that's true. And as you said, you should know when to stop researching. Otherwise, you information that you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, you go from one research direction to another, and then you get lost in all these amazing things that you find, and then you just want to know more and more. But you need to know when to like stop.
Exactly, so important. I agree. So since you're an artist, I wanted to ask you something. And you said that you've got an intuitive design approach. I mean, there are a lot of factors involved, right? When a story comes to you, there are people involved. They have their own perceptions. There's an environment. There's a culture where the story is being told. So how much do these external inputs affect you while designing, and how much do you go with your own instincts as a designer?
So it's like it needs to be a good balance of both. Initially, all these inspirations, cultural definitions have to be. I make like a mood board or like a board, inspiration board.
Right.
So it's there at the side for me to refer to when I'm working, and not something that is like in my face guiding me. So once I have that set up, then I keep it aside, and then I go with my instinct, or just let my mind do its thing.
Right.
But this board is there to make sure I don't go off the rails or outside which direction I'm supposed to go in.
Okay, I get it. So basically, you take all the information, put it in your subconscious, and it keeps on running in the back of your mind as designing. Okay.
Yeah, make sure that it's not like the only thing that's guiding me, but it's there to make sure that I don't
stray away.
Stray away. Yeah.
Okay, quite interesting. So when did you first hear about the role of a visual development artist? Because it's quite new to me. All I would do is research about the songs of the movies maximum. That's all I could do. You heard about this?
That's how even I started. I used to research the songs. I knew all the songs in the soundtracks of the movies. Right. But then somewhere while I was studying product design, I learned about concept artists, and how they help visualize games and the pre-production parts. I was still not too familiar with what this is. And when I was studying in ISD Pune, an instructor from Art Center in Pasadena, LA, came over for a masterclass. And that's where I got introduced to more of what concept art is. And I learned that Art Center has a department which does entertainment design. Yeah. And so then that's where my curiosity grew about this field. And I started learning more there.
Okay. So I'm glad somebody came and told you about this, because it's completely new for me. Hopefully my listeners will benefit from this episode. So how was it, transitioning from an industrial designer to a visual development artist? How was the journey?
It was actually not too different, because from when I was quite little, I used to always love stories and characters. I grew up with comic books at home. My dad had these massive stacks of asterisks and obliques and mad comics. which I used to just go over and over. But I was working in Denmark in this company called Design It as a product designer, and that's where actually my like direction started to change, because uh, I was like, this is too restrictive. This work is too restrictive. Like, when the product has to go for manufacturing, you have to make sure once the screw is like 1 millimeter to the right, and everything was getting too limited. And I always loved characters and storytelling. So that's when I created a portfolio for Art Center, and uh, changed my direction. And my parents were quite supportive of that, so that also helped me to make sure that this was like the right move.
Oh, quite interesting. I'm glad that you made that move. I just wanted to, ask you, as you said, there's a lot of restriction, there's a lot of technical work involved in product design, and the others are quite visual. So I went through your projects, and there's a lot of detailing gone into each and every design. When it comes to the details of the brick, the ivy, even there was on a pillar there were idols on one project. So there's so much detailing, there's so much observation going on. Do you do that in real life as well? Like all the time, are you observant of your surroundings, and are you planning to use them somewhere or the other? Does that ever happen to you?
Yeah, it happens a lot. And the thing is, like, when you're observing, you're non-judgmental about what you're observing, right? And that way it sticks with you, and you usually you stay in the present when you're observing. So that helps you like um, be very clear of what you need to do. And that also actually helped me to then observe myself without a judgmental eye of what I think I am.
Right.
So it really helps in like all aspects, and create action that is very harmonious with the environment. um, I often like try to look at stuff as if I want to paint it. So when you're looking at your surrounding as if you're going to paint it, you're not like judging it as, oh, this is good, this is bad. You're just looking at it for what it is,
Right.
and that helps you make things stick and remember things. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So, in your interview somewhere, you had mentioned that you also that you said that you look at things without bias and just look at it for what it is, factually correct, and everything has different perceptions. So, what I mean, there are obviously a lot of fan theories, right? So, fan theories are basically different perceptions of things. Which is your fan theory till date, and have you ever tried to convert it into a storyboard?
You mean fan theories for Spider-Verse?
Or Spider-Verse or any other, animated movie that you've loved?
Uh, I used to follow a lot of fan theories, but not as much anymore. When I used to read the Harry Potter books,
Right.
I used to love the fan theories of those, because people used to make like an entire book before the actual book came out. They would make like a what if scenario of those used to be a lot of fun. And then even Marvel now has come up with this series called What If. So
Yes.
they are like alternate directions of where stories can go. Yeah, those are a lot of fun, but I haven't been following too many fan theories recently.
Okay. I thought, you might have something interesting that you really love. But I guess you're actually working on the real thing. So, but, so the Harry Potter thing is still going on. I mean, there are still fan theories on Facebook. You can still go through it. And,
Yeah.
go into so much detail of each part that it's fun to read even now.
Yeah, people get invested in stories because stories are the way we see our reality, right? Like,
Mhm.
if you think about it, every thought that we have is like a mini narrative package.
Yes.
And so we're just connecting things in the world through these stories. The problem happens when we see these written stories as something as escapism or entertainment. That's
Right.
when we start taking our stories too seriously. So if we can see that there are just stories to know our reality, then yeah, life becomes a little easy.
A little easier. Yes. I know. So, well, you're working on the sequel of Spider-Man Into the Multiverse. How was your experience working on this project?
Oh, I mean, I couldn't have, I never thought I would be part of this amazing team. It's like, it's filled with these people I used to follow on Instagram and people I used to look up to. And they're like powerhouses of this industry. And so like every moment on it, I get to learn so much. Um, um, it's actually still going on. So the movie would be out in October. So right now it's in the peak of production and everyone just rushing to get things done. Uh, I was actually picked up at my graduation. So the art directors of the first movie, they came over to the graduation and they had like hidden their name tags. So I didn't know who they were. Uh, and they just looked at my work, saw the process that I was explaining. And after a while, they came back and they're like, "Oh, we've seen your work online, and now we just came to see how you are as a person. And we've sent you this link for an interview. So we would love for you to come to the campus." And that's how I got in
Wow,
into Sony. And now I've been there for like 2 years now. Yeah.
nice. Amazing. So I was about to ask you when the movie was releasing, and you already told us. Thank you. I was actually looking for the dates because I rewatched Spider-Man Into the Multiverse, I guess, just 1 month back because it is so,
Nice.
beautifully portrayed the story. It's real. It's almost real. I mean, it's
Mm.
animated. The emotions, the kind of, the colors that have been used, everything is so beautiful that I had to watch it again. Uh,
Yeah, it's an amazing movie. It's
yes,
almost flawless. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. So, well, you in one of your interviews, it is mentioned that you learned screenwriting, neuroscience academics, cinematography, and acting. So, did you learn it as a part of your curriculum, or did you learn it through external mediums?
Yeah, so in Art Center, you could choose electives and classes that were outside your curriculum. And
Right.
so I was always interested in screenwriting, and I took as many of them as I could. Yeah, so there were these very interesting classes about dreams and the neuroscience of imagination, uh, which like really opened up my thinking about like what happens, when you're asleep, when you're in a dreamless state, when you're in your waking state, uh, and using those with the screenwriting information, I made these like connections about how basically screenwriting structures come from our thought structures. So a thought is like has a little a protagonist who has a need, has a want, and has a conflict that needs resolution. And
Right.
so we've basically taken those things and made them into structures that can be applied to other stories.
Right.
Um, so that helped me a lot to in my future stories. And yeah, that was
Okay. Nice, quite interesting because as I understand, acting and creating a storyboard in animation has a little bit of parallel. Every character has a backstory. So even in acting, you have
mm,
to character essay, come up with where they were born, how they behave because of the environments that they were put in. And I guess that is also the basis of creating a character on screen on an animated storyboard. Is that true?
yeah. So once like it's a little hard sometimes too when you're creating a storyboard to know uh, how would you like replicate your intention or replicate your thought process. So you have to like act it out. You have to put yourself in that character uh, to actually see like how would you look at yourself from the outside. So it's
Yeah.
really important. And acting also kind of like helps you like jump from identities, from one identity to another, um, which is again another way to like put your bias aside and see from the perspective of another person.
True.
Yeah, so it's really helpful for storyboarding.
Okay. So, well, there's this one story that you have written, The Aporia, and germinate from learning, neuroscience academics. It's about a prisoner who undergoes new rehabilitation program. And did it germinate from there, or from where did this concept come to you?
Yeah, it kind of did. This was my grad project, the one of the last projects I did, which I showed at the exhibition.
Right.
And that is definitely like one of those classes was one of the definite inspirations for that. Um, and it was actually quite a during the grad show I had made this massive painting of a funeral scene, which was part of the Aporia story. And this lady came over, one of the guests, and she was asking me like, what is the concept of this scene? So I explained to her. So in the scene, most of the people there are like celebrating and not mourning the loss of the person in the scene, and there's just one person who is mourning. So and they were like trying to console him or explain to him like through gestures. So I was explaining to her how life and death are, both part of the process. Life is not the beginning and death is not the end. This person is now, going back into the nature and completing the circle of life. And we die so that we know what life is. So to know what death is, we need to truly live. And the lady started crying, and I was like, is everything okay? She like explained to me that she recently lost her father, and that story kind of helped me uh, get closure for his death. So that moment was quite powerful for me, and I realized how a story maintained her grief and a story got her out of her grief. And yeah, that's like sparked my uh,
Right.
yeah, like evolution, I guess.
No, because it is quite an interesting story. I went through it, and I just wanted to hear it from you. So I thought, who better to talk about it than you? And
Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
that was the best like part of my art center period.
right.
Like I couldn't have asked for any better uh, end to the graduation. Yeah.
Have you written any other stories since?
I am working. So the funeral scene that I told you about, I am making like a little short story out of that. I'm also like writing a book, like a non-fiction book, which I'm going to try to synthesize and make it into that short film about the funeral. So I'm doing that side by side with Spiderverse, and hopefully I can like pitch it to Sony someday.
Oh, glad. All the best to you. I hope that happens.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I had one question. Now this concept, you explained it to me, and there might be a lot of other things that is not perceivable by us as a layman when we look at your work. So is there an archive of sorts where you explain each and every detail of your thought process, and all the artists can display up this work and people can come see it? Is there like this, like apart from on the internet?
Yeah, usually these films have their art of books where all the designs and artwork that we did to make the movie is like put into that book.
Right.
It won't have all the artwork, but like at least it has more explanations than what people can find. Um, but apart from that, I guess only like through interviews, or if artists share their own work, can people know the detailing gone into the pieces.
Right. True. Because everybody has their own way of looking at things, right? And everybody sees a different story based on their own thought process, their own perceptions. And
Yeah.
you see a lot of speculation going on the internet about this color means this, and that is why this emotion has come out. And it's very wonderful to read it, but then what is the perception of the person who has created it? To know that
Yeah.
something more important, to know what is that person's thought process would be interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because when the trailer came out, we had like our intentions of the colors and the text and the characters, and there are a lot of like channels on YouTube which break down the the trailers and the movies. So it's a lot of fun to see how they interpret it. Sometimes they like are spot on of what we wanted to convey, and sometimes it goes a little away, but it's always interesting.
So when it goes a little away, do you enjoy it, or do you think, oh my God, I can use this part, in the next movie or something?
Yeah, so when it goes away, we see, oh, we didn't like, we weren't completely clear about this. So because it's trailer, we can still change things. And so now we are changing some of the things to make sure it's a little more clear of,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, well, apart from this, what do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Um, I love football. Whenever I get any opportunity, I try and go play football or badminton. Other than that, I love painting traditionally, so watercolors and acrylics. Uh, yeah, those are like my go-to things to do. Other than I also in LA, there's so many restaurants, so I'm just always exploring new places around me. Or yeah,
Nice. So you like exploring new places and painting and playing football.
yes.
So, Jay, did you have any learning from your experience, so far that you would like to share with my listeners?
Yeah, I mean, there is life is basically about purposeless inquiry. So as we, if we create a purpose or a conclusion or a belief, all our learning stops, and we like are then operating from that conclusion or from that past belief. So I would just say like it's all about always being open to whatever is thrown at you, mostly by being in the present. And when you're in the present, in the now, not stuck in the thoughts of of the past or thoughts of the future, uh, the learning just increases exponentially, and there is no fixed process or steps or thing to guide a specific learning. It's just your openness and ability to like absorb without judgment that is going to help you learn no matter what field you're in and no matter what direction you want to go in.
So true. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. But coming to the final question, I ask this to everybody
Yes.
because in at least our country, we have a concept of settling, and the podcast is called Unsettling. So, for a person who believes that getting out of the comfort zone is the way of life, that is you, and who believes that mutations work by seeing what does not work and, to slowly discover what does. So, what does the phrase being settled mean to you?
Being settled, I would say, for me, it means to know who you are. Once you know what you really are outside your what you've been told and what stories you think of you is, I guess, being settled, because then you're almost functioning from a state of clairvoyance, because now all your actions are coming out from uh, outside doubt, right? There's no doubt of who it is that is performing or who it is that has to act, and it just takes away fear, I guess. So that eliminates fear, and that is, I guess, what being settled would be for me.
Okay, thank you, Jay. It has been wonderful talking to you and understanding more about
Same here, same here.
about what you do, your work as well. And thank you for the last message that you left us with. It is so important to know who we are as people because we get stuck in the past or the future and forget to live in the present. And if we figure out, what our who we are as a person, we find our own identity. I guess we can function better as human beings.
Yeah. Mhm.
So thank you, Jay. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Can people get in touch with you? Is there, an email ID, or can I add a link to the
Yeah, through Instagram,
Instagram?
I guess would be the easiest way to get
Okay.
get in touch.
Done. I'll add the links in the description. I guess we've just touched the surface. If you have any more doubts or any more questions, you can always get in touch with him. So thank you, Jay. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Amrita. Thank you.